Hey, Scott Hylton, Scott Talks. I think most of you have seen the trailer for Project Hail Mary. It looks excellent. It's based on an incredibly good book, incredibly good. And Andy Weir, who wrote The Martian, wrote this book. And the trailer does a great job. They show the alien a little too soon, though, because one of the great surprises of the book was you're deep into the book and all of a sudden, yeah. But I guess they figured, it's like Yoda when Empire Strikes Back came out. It's going to get out. There's no getting around it. So they should have touched it. They should have touched a Rocky, just a touch. And explained the situation with Ryan Gosling's character in Project Hail Mary. Ryland Grace, or if some of you have been at church, have heard Hail Mary of Grace. Oh yeah, that might be where it came from. How you doing?
Good morning, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
Good. You get your grass all worked out?
I planted a little bit of seeding in the back. I'm waiting for it to see if it sprouts up.
In the back?
Yeah, in the back.
That's
Front's pretty thick. Yeah.
It's about that tall. You see, like
It's growing in the back. My wife's giving me a hard time.
Oh,
I said, I'll get it Monday or Tuesday.
Let it grow. Yeah, you'll get like chicken feet.
Yeah.
And you get the seed off of that. It's a difficult grass though. But you see some of these, they got too much water. So you gotta watch that too with the stuff up front.
Yeah.
And you can put too much water on it, it starts dying off. Anyway.
Yeah, well, it's just the way it is.
It's just the way it is. There you go, enjoy your walk.
Oh, you too. See, you live in a nice neighborhood, you get to see friendly people. We're here at on top of the world in Ocala, Florida. Cool. Just walking and talking, right? Sorry for the interruption. But I had bought some grass seed for the backyard. It's expensive. And I dug into the earth and stuck it in some bare spots to test it out, and I'm still waiting to see if something pops through. But anyway, Project Hail Mary. Looks like it's going to be an amazing movie. And the people that did direct it, was it Lord and Miller? They're both great directors, did the Spider-Verse movies, and they were excellent. Good gosh, that was good. And this looks like it's going to be good too. They've added a little more humor to it. They had some humor in the book anyway, but they look like they've taken some more jabs and things to make it even more fun. A lot of people online, I've watched some reviews, people watching the trailer for the first time, and I know you have questions. This is going to be a semi-spoiler thing, okay? You're going to get some semi-spoilers. Not the ending, but I thought it was curious. Have you seen The Studio, this TV show on Apple TV Plus, The Studio, which is amazingly funny. Seth Rogen plays a guy that gets put in head of a studio, and his boss is Bryan Cranston. He's demanding results and all this stuff. So they're working on this movie, and he's there visiting a set, causing chaos because he's the boss. But not that way. He's an idiot. So. But he enjoys bookends. He says in bookends, there's a scene where she's smoking some weed early on. Why don't you have her in this lower scene smoking the weed again just for that one quick second? It'd be a bookend. It'd be like, the beginning of the movie, the end of the, you got a bookend. I love bookends. And I was sitting there thinking about that, watching the trailer for Project Hail Mary. There is a bookend, and hidden in the trailer that no one, unless you read the book, you wouldn't know. But it hints at the ending. And I was like, oh, at least the ending for the book. But I'm sure it's in the movie too. But I was like, cool, bookend. So it's very subtle. It's very, you wouldn't know to even think about it unless you really read the book and you went, and you watch the trailer again and again, and it kicked in, and you went, oh my gosh, there it is. So for you guys that have read the book, watch it again and again. There is a hint for the ending. And a lot of people complained, why is he the only astronaut? Why is he the only one going? Well, he's not the only one going. You see the two people at the table wearing the yellow coat kind of like things. They're two astronauts too going. One guy's going from China, because you see there's a scene where Rylan has one of the astronauts lifted up, and you can see the Chinese patches zoom in, that he's from China. The lady that's in charge is from the Ann Stoltz or something, I can't remember her name. She's more from the European Space Agency, but she's been put in charge of pretty much the entire damn planet's defense against the sun losing its brightness and dying off. I think we have 30 years to live, and you got this star you want to go to that's 11 point some light years away, and you're like, people are like trying to figure out, that aren't big into space, how are they going to do that? Because a lot of people think, oh, why don't we just go to our closest star? Well, we don't go that fast. We don't have the technology to go fast. I mean, if it's 11 light years away, 11 point something, at the speed of light, which we are nowhere near in our technology now, at the speed of light, you would get there in 11 point some years, right? So they've got like 30 years left to go trying to figure this problem out. And Andy Weir, who wrote The Martian, is brilliant. I mean, he's brilliant. He knows things he told Neil deGrasse Tyson, the astrophysicist, that he adds a lot of this stuff because his parents are physicists. He says, I've got to add this scientific stuff, or people like you would give me a hard time not getting the science right. And he goes out of his way, I mean, just really out of his way. There's so much techno-babble in here to make it plausible, to make it believable. In The Martian, he tweaked a couple things of science. Spoiler for The Martian. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. But the times he's outside, going with that little rover, constantly out there, moving around. There's radiation. We've got a thin atmosphere on Mars, okay? Real thin. And it lets a lot of radiation in. So he couldn't have been out there that long every day. You know what I'm saying? He would have had to limit his exposure, even with that suit on. And he kind of avoided that subject in The Martian. And then the fact the winds blew so hard that the ship tilted. He said the winds blow on Mars, but they don't blow that hard. At least, not that we know of. I mean, that could happen. We found volcanoes in space on other moons and stuff. And, it could happen. Some phenomenon just like it on Earth, where we have, great weather, so we have these hurricanes show up, or twisters or something, and it just hasn't been recorded on Mars yet. But let's walk some more. So it's just, he has to, just like any story in Hollywood, the shark in Jaws, the air tank that blew up the shark. Air tanks don't blow up, but Spielberg said they would. He trained the audience to believe they would. So in the movie, in the end, in the book, the shark just died before it got to Roy Scheider's character. And everyone else had died in the book. So he didn't want that ending. He wanted a big dramatic ending. So he wanted to blow up the shark. And the air tank was the way he was going to do it. And on Mythbusters, they tested one of the actual air tanks from the movie. And it basically, if you put a hole in it, all that pressure, it shoots off like a rocket. And that thing bounced around the room with a fake shark in it. You could hear it banging around all over the walls and stuff. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's cool. So it doesn't blow up, it just becomes a little rocket when it has a hole in it. It just starts, off it goes in that direction, because any rocket would, all that pressure or fuel or whatever is jetted out, and it goes. So he creates a scientific reason, kind of based on we don't have the science for it yet, but he brings an exception in. The thing that's killing us could also be the thing that could possibly help save us. And that's the way they work around it. Something we have no idea exists is killing us, killing the sun, and that also has the potential for, saving us. So that's the answer to that. Are there other astronauts? There's 2 other astronauts on the ship with Ryland. And you see them sitting there at the table. Why aren't there other physicists that could do this? Why did they pick Ryland? Well, Ryland is a brilliant guy. And he wrote a paper trashing everyone's theory on Earth-like planets have to be in the Goldilocks zone and they have to have water and all this. And he was like, well, that's not true. This could happen, this could happen, this could happen, and it could create life. And his peers kind of laughed at him. Now, Ryland's character is kind of like Daniel on the Stargate movie. Remember, Daniel was teaching lectures and talking about, all his theories on the Egyptian culture and all that stuff, and people were walking, and he had theories, and the people in the room were laughing at him and like, yeah, right, and he was just kind of like outcast. So, for Ryland to become a high school teacher and enjoy teaching the kids and just getting away from all that academia is plausible. So he's a brilliant guy, but a lot of his peers didn't look up to him. So he's teaching high school. Okay. Of course, the lady that's in charge of this project has access to the entire world's knowledge. Everyone's looking for answers. The entire planet's looking for answers. That's why there's a Chinese astronaut there, and the girl sitting there that you recognize from the AT&T commercials. In case you looked at her and went, I know her. Yeah, that's her. And I can't remember what country she's from. But it could be U.S., could be a NASA person. But Ryland's not the only scientist. They're trained, but he's training them in what he's discovered with this stuff that's killing the sun. It's got to do with Venus and the sun, and there's something going on. And his studies have elevated their research a little bit, because he's like Daniel. Daniel was asked to figure out the Stargate symbols, and he got locked in a room basically, and it's the same thing with Ryland. He's pretty much trapped there. They want his research. They want him to look into this stuff as best he can, and there are other scientists working too. They're making discoveries also. But Ryland has an odd way of looking at things, and it brings out results sometimes. So they decide they're going to build this ship, and they're going to send the 3 people there, and one's got to be a scientist, and the others astronauts, to keep the ship going and stuff. And they've automated it. It's the near future. It's not that near, far off in the future that it's got a lot of impossibilities on it, but it's near future. And this lady who's in charge of everything, she can call the Russians, the Chinese. I need an aircraft carrier. She's got it. Boom, she's got it. Because the whole planet's going to die. It'll be an ice age in 30 years. So they got to move. They got to move quick. And they've got limited resources. They finally found a way to get to this star, but it's limited. So it's a one-way trip. And they've got probes on board that they'll shoot back with the last of the limited stuff, fuel. And they got 4 probes. And I'm not going to tell you what they're called, but it's neat when you find out. But yes, there are 4. And that is a big key. Anyway. And if you're really young and you find out and you come out of the theater going, what is that all about? Open Spotify, okay? Good gosh. Anyway, he's like Daniel. He's the one that figures out some things, like Daniel that figured out the patterns on the sarcophagus thing were star constellations. That kind of thinking outside the box. That's why they kept him there locked up, and he figured it out. And they are able to unlock the Stargate. So Ryland Grace he's a brilliant microbiologist, but he's And he thinks a little different than the others, but occasionally that works. And he came up with a couple discoveries, along with some other scientists who were discovering stuff. And they wanted him in the space mission. And of course, no, I ain't going. I ain't doing it. So he's training 2 other people. The next scientist in line is getting trained by him. They're all working together. And then the backup scientist, they're all working together. Okay, so there is someone to go in space, and there is someone to back them up in case something happens to them that will go in space. And the lady that's in charge is keeping Rylan around to train them and, give them his point of view on the different things that they'll be able to adapt and look at this stuff, figure out why this other star, when they get there, might not be dying like all the other stars. And it's kind of a Hail Mary, it's a long shot, right? Because it could be nothing. They can't figure this out, can't get there, whatever happens. And the reason he's waking up from a coma is they don't freeze people in cryogenic freeze. They still haven't figured that out yet. It's not lost in space or something yet. It's so Andy Weir, being the scientist that he is, figures there are ways to put people in comas for long periods of time. So that's why all the tubes are on him, feeding him stuff and everything. And in the book, he's investigated the slurry tubes or some of the slurry pumps. I think that's the ones that are feeding the food to the bodies as they're in coma state. He's going to investigate something going on with that just before something big and bad happens. And I don't think he ever gets around to investigating that. That could be a big thing in the movie. Anyway, it was only alluded to in the book. But anyway, so you do have other scientists working on it. I mean, all the scientists on the planet are working on it. But right there at that little place where they're working, they're going to send a scientist with the other 2 astronauts. And that's going to be the mission, because the ship's only so big. They've only got so much fuel to get there that they can get their hands on, and that's it. It's one way. Hail Mary, tried it, and then shoot the probes back to Earth. It's going to take, I think, 11 years if they're getting close to the speed of light, 1150, So they find a way to slow up the 30-year process barely. That's interesting in the book. I don't know if they'll do it in the movie. Got someone else. How are you today?